Folks, hello. Hopefully you're having a good day. Have you ever had one of those days where you're just not feeling anything? Like you're just feeling really down and you got this weird feeling in your chest the whole day and it won't leave you alone? That's me today, but I thought, you know what? Screw that. We're going to come on and do some 40k rants anyway because I saw a really good video earlier in the week by Lewitin, who was talking about an idea that I've exposited on the channel over here before, I think it was last year, the fact that Games Workshop don't finish stories, or at least we don't think they can, right? Most of the fan base don't believe that they can, or that they even want to. And he brought up a few really good examples of Games Workshop not being able to finish stories in Warhammer 40,000. One was the Tyranids, obviously, because if they win, then the whole galaxy basically dies. One was the Necrons, when, similarly enough, they have amazing pieces of technology, but they can't be allowed to use them because they just win the setting. The Black Crusades of Abaddon the Despoiler, right? If they ended up coming to the logical conclusion that he rules the galaxy, what then happens? And he came up with a very good hypothesis that 40k is in a bit of a stasis, and it always will be. And one of the main reasons he uses is that 40k as a setting is made to sell models. Usually a setting is made and then the models come afterwards, right? Like with Star Wars or with things like Mass Effect, right? The setting is made, the actual media around that setting is made and makes a lot of money, and then you get your models, then you get your war games like your Star Wars Legion, Shatterpoint, things like that, right? That come out afterwards. So the games are made to coincide with the lore, and the lore is completely separate to the games. Whereas with 40k, those two things are intrinsically linked. That is a really good point that I missed in my original video. And I've stopped really having a go at myself for missing things. And I've started to look at YouTube as more of a dialogue between different people, right? Not that Lewitin will ever watch this video because he's obviously, a massive YouTuber, but you might be surprised, I don't know. But I think it's a really good thing to take other people's arguments and then come back at them in another way, maybe shape them in your own way, maybe internalize them and then think about them, pull them apart in certain instances and have your own take on it. So YouTube, especially Warhammer YouTube, I think it should become a place where guys like us have a dialogue back and forth. You've got your Amber Kings, who is the other really good YouTuber I discovered the other day, Live from the Black Library, right? There's a channel called Live from the Black Library. He's brilliant. Really, really, really good. So it'd be a really good place to go back and forth with ideas. And since I originally did that video last year, I thought it'd be okay, not too cheap of me, to come back with a video of my own, because I've got a few things to add to Lewitin's video, and as such, his video will be down in the description below for you to go and have a little look at, maybe for context, and it gives you more things to do if you're bored and you're listening to me, because, you need something to do. Maybe you're cooking, maybe you're walking around, maybe you're in the gym. Good on you. If you're on a walk right now, or you're in the gym, good on you, mate. Carry on going. Crush it. You're doing well. Right. So Lewitin brought up the Tyranids, Necrons, Abaddon the Despoiler, and of course the Emperor as well in his video. The big tentpole problems of Warhammer 40,000 and the inability of Games Workshop to finish stories, because if they move any story forwards, they might destabilize the entire setting, and in doing so, basically render the entire thing mute because it's all over. One other point I wanted to make was that if you push 40k too far in terms of it changing, or it getting more complex, or it getting more resolved in certain areas, you seemingly take away some of the luster of the models. Another really important bit of evidence that I think that Games Workshop do this themselves is what happened with Commissar Yarrick. So Commissar Yarrick was written out of the setting off screen. He was killed off screen, which is a really ridiculous thing for anybody to do, never mind Games Workshop, considering how loved Old Red Eye was, right? So he is now gone, he's now dead, or at least he's maybe dead. We're not really, because even Games Workshop, as I've said before, they did a very cowardly move. They killed him off... Sorry, one sec. There we go. They killed him off screen, and then refused to elaborate any further, right? They killed him off screen, but then left it in a grey area and said, well, maybe he's not dead, you know? That is a coward's way of writing. Stick to your guns. If you have something to say it. Don't just kill him off screen and then say, well, maybe he's not dead and he will return. Oh, shut up. Right? I hate writing that's stupid and cowardly and you shouldn't do it. Anyway, what Games Workshop then did was that they moved his model to the Legends section of 40k and then just deleted his rules entirely so you can't really play him anymore. Which brings me back to my original point. Games Workshop can't move their lore forwards because if they do, they've done it in the past, they've shown that they will absolutely get rid of the rules for things that are dead in the setting. That means if you have Eldrad die, if you have Gilliman die, if you have anything interesting happen in 40k whatsoever, they will get rid of that model from the setting and the game. Because the setting and the game are the same thing to them, right? If somebody is dead in the setting, they can't really be played in the game. They've done it before with Yarrick. They'll do it again. There's a very good reason why when Ghazghkull, we mentioned this in Grimdark Therapy the other day, when Ghazghkull gets his head cut off by Ragnar Blackmane, again, that's a really stupid thing to do, because the Space Wolves don't need yet another win, you know, but here we are. A very stupid thing to do, but they don't even stick to their guns because they can't. They reattach Ghazghkull's head, and he comes back with a raging hate boner for Ragnar Blackmane and the Space Wolves, right? Fine. It means there are no consequences to 40k lore. Things can't move forwards because you've expressed in the past that if you stick to your guns, Games Workshop, and you either kill off a character or you end a plot line, that plot line is no longer playable in the game. Horus Heresy, one second. Horus Heresy doesn't have this problem. I don't know why. Maybe because it's already ended and so they don't really care. Because we know what's going to happen in the end. But if somebody dies in Horus Heresy, his rules don't go away. Right? Sanguinius is dead in the Horus Heresy. His rules are still there. You can still play him. Right? Because you're playing a game in the setting somewhere. You're not playing the current, universe. When in 40k, there seems to be a difference of opinion. You're not playing 40k as a whole setting. You're playing current day 40k. You're playing every single battle, as far as Games Workshop is concerned, takes place slightly after the Indomitus Crusade, and that's it. The minute they started moving 40k forwards and actually shoving the setting a little bit forwards in time, which is great, which I wanted them to do that for ages, but the minute they did that, they made a commitment to say, this is the setting now. So whatever we write into being has to be the case on the tabletop. Before the 8th edition, 13th Black Crusade ends, Cadia is destroyed, Gilliman comes back. Before all of that happened, 40k was a setting where pretty much you could play any model that you wanted, and they very rarely killed anybody off because they want you to be able to play them on the tabletop. And I thought the reasoning for that was that they, didn't want morale to drop, right? They did it with Eldrad once, where they killed Eldrad off, and even, Imperium players were like, that's a stupid thing to do. Eldar have got nothing in terms of characters. They've got a few Phoenix Lords, which aren't really, human characters anyway. Can we not just have Eldrad back? And, of course, they brought Eldrad back, right? So even when they killed off characters, they very quickly came back. But there was a method to the madness, where they said, you know what, yeah, people enjoy playing with characters who are alive and who can still have a meaningful impact on the setting, right? That's fine, maybe that's what 40k people were all about. But I think Horus Heresy has proved the fallacy of that argument, right? Horus Heresy has proved that if you create something that's cool enough, that's great enough, they won't give a flying monkeys whether Sanguinius is dead in the story or not. Having Sanguinius in your army, if you're a Blood Angel Legion player, is awesome, right? That's just how it is. There's a tragedy to having him go into combat and slaying things left and right. We love it, right? So players have got... Basically what I'm saying is players have got brains. But I don't think Games Workshop respect the fact that you have brains. And you can actually play a game where certain characters are dead and not care whether they're dead or not in the current narrative. Because it's really, really, really cool. Who cares if Commissar Yarrick is dead? I'm going to play him in my games anyway because he's a cool character. And maybe I'm role-playing, his very last stand against the Orcs or something. That's really cool, and I think that should be celebrated. But no, Games Workshop don't trust you to do that. Whenever they kill somebody off in the narrative, or they end a certain narrative, as in the Ynnari, I'm so sorry Eldar players, they basically nuke that thing from the game itself. Have you seen a Ynnari army recently? I haven't, right? It's gone. It's no longer in the game, because Games Workshop don't want it there, because if you play a Warhammer 40,000 game in the year of our Lord 2025, you are playing in the current 40k setting that belongs to Rabute Gilliman and his Blue Boys and nothing much else, right? That's what you're playing in. And that's terrible. That's awful. That isn't. It's like Games Workshop have selected, what is the worst way we could do this? What's the worst way we could move the setting forwards and really annoy everybody? How about we move it forwards, right? But every single time we kill somebody off, you can't play them in the game anymore. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be so clever? Because we can't trust them to think, you know, narratively. No, we can't do that. You know, that'd be silly. You know. So while Lewitin brought up the Tyranids, Necrons, Emperor, and Black Crusades, there are a few other things that are a bit more under the hood that I'd like to talk about that Games Workshop will never touch. Because if they did, one, it would be very interesting for people to read about, yeah, maybe, but number two, it would move things on in a way where they can't really do that, right? They can't really push things along. These are dangling threads that will never be tied up, ever. And that, as a reader, is the most frustrating thing. Do you know what it makes me do? When I read something cool in your setting that I know will never be tied up because either you can't or you've never expressed any want or ability to do so, it makes me not read your setting anymore. Because why should I give a shit? Why should I fucking try at all? Because nothing you do matters. Number one, the Terminus Decree. If you don't know what the Terminus Decree is, folks, it is a decree that the Grey Knights have as the most sacred thing that they can do. And when they break open this decree and do it, it basically gives them contingency plans that could, by a quote-unquote, bring the Imperium down or save it completely at its darkest hour, right? Nobody else has this. Not even the Adeptus Custodes have this. And as far as I'm aware, they're not even aware that the Grey Knights have this in their back pocket and can do it at any point. The symbols on the Terminus Decree, which only the Supreme Grand Master can do, Caldor Drago, right? The symbols on this thing only match the symbols on the Emperor's Golden Throne. And not just any part of it either. The part of the Golden Throne that is actually attached to his body, right? His person. Which kind of leads me to believe that when you do the Terminus Decree, what does Terminus mean? It means end, finish, done, right? It means a contingency plan where they kill the Emperor's mortal form. That is basically what they're telling you, right? This is a decree where the Grey Knights can teleport directly to the Golden Throne and insert this Terminus Decree, and it will annihilate the Emperor's mortal form. Now, that is something that will never, ever, ever happen. So, my point is this. If that is something that will never, ever, ever happen, because, you know, they can't nuke their own setting, why did you write it in the first place? Why? Why put this in the game, in the setting, if it's never going to be used? Do the Grey Knights need a Terminus Decree to be interesting? No. They are knights in space that are nearly incorruptible by chaos. Not completely, nearly incorruptible by chaos. That just annihilate demons by just their sheer presence. That's enough. What? Like, this is what I mean. It's like they don't proofread what their writers send out. And when people say to me, I have a differing opinion on this now, by the way, after, like, thinking about it for a long time. When people say to me, Black Library writers should just write all of the lore for the codexes, no. No, because Black Library writers did things like this. It's idiotic and stupid, right? Why is this even there? Okay, you're never going to use it, and it's only going to frustrate the fans, because they want to see what happens. That's the point of a story, right? It's only ever interesting when you have a payoff. If you never have any payoff that isn't blue-coloured, trimmed with gold, what's the fucking point? Why should any Eldar player get excited for any lore you write? Not that you're going to actually write any lore for them, but, you know, why should they? Why should they? They have the Ynnari right there, the Eldar God of Death. And what does that Eldar God of Death do? They annihilate Slaanesh. That's what they're there to do. Get rid of a Chaos God. They're literally there to destroy a Chaos God, and they have a very in-universe, makes sense thing to do. Yeah, they're gonna basically use the Spirit Network to annihilate. They don't go into specifics, but they can use the Spirit Network to annihilate Slaanesh by, you know, awakening the Eldar God of the Dead, who then absolutely beats Slaanesh and beats him, her, she, whatever it is, into an absolute pulp, right? Very interesting, right? The least they could have done is allow the Eldar God of Death to be born, so now the Eldar actually have a god who's not broken, who actually really limits the Chaos God's power. That thing coming around could have stopped the Cicatrix Maledictum, the Great Rift, from swallowing the entire galaxy. So everybody has the Eldar to thank for saving their asses in an indirect way. That would be a very interesting thing to do. Did Games Workshop do that? No, they don't. They didn't, because they don't have brains. They don't have brains. They're not able to finish stories. Even when it's right there in front of them as a way they could do it, they couldn't just give the Xenos a win. They couldn't give a win to anybody but Guilliman. No. Even the Blood Angels don't get to have their own win when Guilliman's around. Absolutely not. So, the Ynnari don't get their time in the sun, and now they never will. Do you know why? Because for some contrived reason, to do their plans, they need Crone Swords. If you don't know what Crone Swords are, I'll be here all day. They're very powerful Eldar swords. Let's just put it that way, right? They are galaxy-splitting Eldar swords. Certain Eldar champions have them. Ivrain has one. The Incarnate has one. The Visarch has one, right? They all have these Crone Swords. And they need this specific Crone Sword, right? To basically enact this, or even start to enact this plan. Where is it? In the Palace of Pleasures, at Slaanesh's feet. Out of the reach of any Eldar. Games Workshop took the one thing that could bring this thing around and said, fuck you, Eldar, and put it in the one place where none of them can ever get to it. Do you see what I mean now? Do you see what I mean? They introduced these massive, scope-defying things into their own setting, and even when there's a clear way for a payoff, they back away, right? Have you ever... This is going to sound really crude. It's like having a girlfriend who is really into edging, you know? She's really into edging. She gets you 99% of the percent there. Then, when you're, you know, about ready to go, right? She gets up, walks out, gets in her car, and drives to Birmingham, right? And you're just like, what? Why? We were right there. We were about to get our enjoyment. We were right there. Why did you do that? That's how every Eldar player feels whenever you bring up the Ynnari. Clone Fulgrim. I've said this before and I'll say it again. There is no reason for Clone Fulgrim to exist other than one writer fapping off to himself and his own ideas, right? And again, this is a Black Library thing. If you're never going to pay off Clone Fulgrim, don't write about him. Literally, don't bring him into the setting. That was such a cool idea, to have a perfect Fulgrim who knew of what he did in the Horus Heresy and was disgusted by it and wanted to just, you know, be a good man, essentially, right? And even having the corrupted Emperor's children bow to this guy, be like, oh my god, right? They start like tearing off their own Slaaneshi trinkets and things. No, I've got to go back to how I was. This is this guy's perfection, right? Only to have Fabius Bile turn against the clone and have him thrown in stasis in Trajan the Infinite's vault. Again, one place where nearly nobody is ever going to get to him. Dude, don't introduce things like this to your setting. I've said it before, I'll say it again, if you're never going to pay it off. Just don't. It's frustrating, it's annoying, and at the end of the day, it devalues your setting because why should I fucking bother? Every single time a Valrak or God bless you, man, by the way, or any other lore person gets really excited about a new piece of 40k lore, I roll my eyes and go, why should you fucking bother? Why are you putting this energy into it? They're never going to finish it. If it's not about Guilliman, the Ultramarines, right? That story that you're reading right now, if it's some big arcing plot that's going to change the galaxy, it's never going to happen. They're never going to finish it. It'll be a dangling thread that's left there as a plot hook that can never be touched ever again. You know? Sure, we have book series that have endings. That's not what I mean. I mean overarching meta plots like Clone Fulgrim, like the Terminus Decree, like the Inari, faction plot lines. They never end. So why get excited about it? They've sapped that away from us. It's like the boy who cried wolf. One too many times, man. One too many times they went to the well and said, "Ooh, look at this cool thing." Anyway, not talking about that ever again. Moving on to the next thing. And like, dude, what are you doing? Like, has anybody at Games Workshop ever taken a writing class or like been, or even had a conversation with a published author? Not, again, when I say published author, I don't mean published author in Black Library terms. I'm going to say this once and for all for everybody listening. If you've only ever been published by the Black Library or somebody adjacent to Black Library, you're not a real author. You're not. Stop pretending you are. Stop putting fucking philosophy into your books. It doesn't matter. Nobody's listening. You're not a very good writer. That's why nobody else will publish the bullshit you write. Okay? Good. Literally. There's a good reason why they're really good. You know, the Joe Abercrombies of this world don't write for Games Workshop. Right? Because they would consider it an insult to them if they were made to write for Games Workshop. When they look at the other writers who actually do write for Games Workshop. Because you have shit like this going on. And let me give you a current day. A real-time example of what I'm talking about. Lionel Johnson meeting Rebute Guilliman. Lionel Johnson was released a few years ago now and has done nothing. He's walked around the few forests. He's reclaimed one or two worlds in his protectorate, whatever that means. He's redeemed a few of the fallen. Right. Let's look at what Guilliman did when he came back, right? Basically, solved the Imperium, is what he did, right? Within a few years, he'd solved the Imperium, and everything's fine. We're in this horrible status quo where there's war everywhere, but, you know, we've got to sell some models. The Lion hasn't even met Guilliman yet. We've seen 40k, and this is another thing that I wanted to bring up here that I don't think Lewitton really touched on. For a while, 40k lore moved at breakneck speed when it suited Games Workshop. When it suited Rebute Guilliman and the Ultramarines. It moved at breakneck speed. We went from the destruction of Cadia all the way through to the ending of the Indomitus Crusade, or even carrying on, whatever, after a few centuries, in the space of a couple of years. Yeah, right? 2017 to 2020 was like, woof, like you know, we had all of that in that short time frame. Since then, 40k is back in stasis mode. Nothing's moving forwards. Nothing's changing, right? We don't even know what year it is in the Imperium. We're back to this amalgamous blob of a setting where nothing moves forward, nothing changes because it can't. And even bringing back a Primarch like Lionel Johnson, one of the big boys, the actual big brother of the Primarchs, the best one, by Sanguinius' own admission, by the way, the best one, right? He comes back and does nothing. Why? Because nothing can beat the stasis. Nothing can rock the boat. We've given Guilliman his time in the sun. He's reset the setting, and now we're back on stasis mode for the next 30 years. Primarchs will keep coming back, but nothing will ever move forwards. Because Games Workshop have tied their setting to the models and the game. And nothing will ever change that. one thing Lewittin did say that I think is a really good idea: remove the setting from the game. I don't mean make 40k a sludge of nothing. No, no, no. 40k is 40k, right? But the setting may move on, no problem, right? And with the models that Games Workshop bring out, you can play battles from any point in that setting's timeline. Yeah? Right now you can kind of do that. But once they get rid of Firstborn Marines, you can't anymore. Remember that. If you want to play the Badab War, if you want to play, say, I don't know, right? One of the Black Crusades, like the Gothic War or something, where you're doing ship-to-ship combat with Marines boarding other ships, you can't do that. In a few years' time, that will be beyond you. If you want to stick to just Games Workshop models, that will be beyond you. Why? Because there won't be any rules in 11th, 12th edition for Firstborn Marines. Right? Games Workshop won't even sell them. So you're done. No more Badab War for you. This is what I mean. They need to divorce the setting from the models. The models need to come out so you can play a battle or a game from any point in that 10,000 year span. From the end of the Horus Heresy all the way through to the current day 40k meta. You should be able to do it. If you keep them one and the same, where this is the current setting, and these are the models that we have to represent the current setting, and that's the game in 10th edition, that's fucking poor. And that shouldn't be a thing. That should not be a thing. What do you guys think? Am I going mad? Have I lost the plot finally? I don't know. I love you a long time. I will speak to you very, very, very soon. Thank you, Lewittin, for putting up that amazing video that inspired me to make this one. And I will speak to you tomorrow for some more hobby nightmares. So, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye now.